Billy Joel. That's all I have to say. Billy, it is an absolute pleasure to have you. Um, Thank you so much for doing this. I know you're so busy. And you're here now in New York, right?
Yes, we're back on Long Island.
Billy, I didn't know something about you, and I couldn't believe it, that you were actually born in the Bronx.
That is correct. I was.
I never knew that. I was reading about you, and it said born in the Bronx, but then you grew up in Long Island. But I just want to ask you a couple of questions before we get into your incredible career. And I know people ask you this much all the time, but so many fans of mine who ask, saying, well, if you're going to speak to Billy, you have to ask him that, did he always want to be an entertainer, always wanted to be a piano player? I noticed that your mother insisted that you take piano lessons. Is that right?
Yes, we had an old upright in the house, a Lester upright. And when I was a little tiny guy, I would go over to that piano and just bang on it. My dad could play very well. He was classically trained.
Yes.
But when I was a little kid, I just wanted to make noise. So I went bang, bang, bang. And after 3 or 4 years, my mom went, that'll be enough of that. I used to play the storm song. And down in the bottom, that's the thunder. And then up on top, there's the lightning. Dinkle, dinkle, dinkle. And then she goes, okay, enough of the storm song. Let's have you learn how to play.
Right. And you were actually taught by some great people, this gentleman, Morton Estrin.
Morton Estrin, yes. He was a very fine classical pianist.
Wow. So you really started with, so you were 4 years old. And that just kills me when I think about that a person at 4 or 5 years old could just, but you always felt that you were a better organ player than you were a piano player. Is that true?
Well, the problem with rock and roll is pianos, before they developed piano pickups and good miking technology, you couldn't hear the piano. It got lost because the guitar had an amplifier, the bass had an amplifier, the drummer was making a big racket. And so you played the organ usually, or some kind of electronic keyboard, which was usually an organ. They didn't have very good electric pianos back in the day.
Wow. And what would you say, Billy, your first group? I remember the Hassles. I mean, I'm old enough to remember that group. I remember hearing about you guys, and I remember that group. Were you around when Mountain was around? Remember Mountain?
Oh, yeah. Mountain was Leslie West on guitar, Felix Pappalardi on bass.
That's right.
Corky Lang. I don't remember who the drummer was.
Yeah, but I remember that band. I remember the Hassles. I remember that. And your first, let's get to your first album, Cold Springs Harbor. There was a song that got some airplay that really was the beginning of Billy Joel, and that was like Captain Jack. Is that right, Billy?
Well, that wasn't on Cold Spring Harbor. That was on Piano Man. That was the second album.
Oh, Piano Man. Okay, I'm sorry.
But the Cold Spring Harbor album, the song that got a lot of play was called She's Got Away.
She's Got Away. Wow. And then your 1973, if I'm not mistaken, that's when the album Piano Man came out.
That's right. I recorded it in 73. It came out towards the end of 73.
Now, the great thing about that song, Billy, I've been to five of your concerts at Madison Square Garden. And I have to say this to the people out there: if you haven't seen Billy Joel at the Garden, put that on your bucket list as something you have to do before you leave this earth. I've seen you 5 times, Billy. How many shows have you done there at the Garden? It's the record, right?
I don't, Kerry, how many shows have I done at the Garden? 120, 140?
120. Billy, you have 120 sellouts at the Garden. That's like Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak. That will never be broken, Billy. Never.
Well, I was lucky enough to be from New York. And if you're going to do a residency at an arena, the arena in New York is Madison Square Garden. It's like that joke Henny Youngman used to say. My dad was the town drunk. The town was New York City. I just lucked out. I'm from New York.
Wow. No, I just, that is you know what's fascinating to me is my daughter, who's 19, who's in the arts, she sings, she'll hear Piano Man and know all the words. I mean, it's incredible when I go to that concert and you sing Piano Man, not just Piano Man, all these songs. I mean, it has to blow your mind, Billy, when they're singing your songs and they weren't even born when you wrote these things.
Yeah, it's very cool when they know the words. Sometimes I'll forget and I'll look down at the audience and I'll follow them.
Yeah, you'll hear my producer Michael's laughing because he's a huge fan of yours, and he said, "Look, Michael, you had a question you wanted to ask him."
Yeah, I wanted to know, like, is there any song that you perform live that you kind of hate performing?
That I hate performing. I don't hate any of them. I can get a little tired of doing them over and over. I mean, Piano Man, how many thousands of times have I played Piano Man? But we can't not do that song. There'd be too many people disappointed. So at the end of the show, the crowd does the work, which is nice. Okay, you guys take it away.
Yeah,
but I do sing it. Any songs that I hate? Nothing that I really hate. I like something about everything I wrote.
well, that's great.
But I get a little, believe it or not, tired of the hits. I tend to prefer the songs that weren't hits, the album tracks and obscurities.
Right.
Because they're like the other kids went on to become lawyers and doctors, and these kids, they're having a hard time. They're still living in the basement, you know?
I know, Billy, but it's like you said, you can't disappoint them. I know you love doing, I love hearing it, is Italian Restaurant. I mean, that song just, I mean, when I hear Italian Restaurant, it's one of those songs I could hear over and over and over again, and I just sing the words, and it's just amazing. Like I said to you, folks, you have to go see Billy in person at the Garden. Billy, when do you start up again? Are you be starting up soon?
All I know is we're booked in November again to start again at the Garden.
Wow.
We don't know if we can start before that. See, we need to have 100% seating capacity for it to work.
Right.
If you play less than that, it's like you're playing to half a crowd. It's not the same thing. So we were supposed to do stadiums this summer. I was supposed to do Fenway Park. I was supposed to do the Buffalo Stadium. I was supposed to do Notre Dame. I was supposed to do a couple of places, but they're all iffy. Nobody knows for sure if
Nobody
we can really
knows.
do them. So the only thing I know for sure is we'll be back at the Garden in November. And then there's like 6 months worth of booked gigs starting then.
Billy, do you have a favorite album? I mean, obviously The Stranger was your biggest selling album in 1977. It sold 10 million copies. It's also in the Rolling Stone, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was number 70 on one of the greatest albums ever made. Would you say that was your favorite album, The Stranger, or they're all, you know?
No, my favorite album would have been either the last album I did, which was The River of Dreams.
Yes.
Or The Nylon Curtain, which was kind of heavy. That was a heavy album.
Right.
I was very proud of that when that was finished. And then the more fun albums to do were like Glass Houses was a blast to do. That was a lot of fun. And so was the Innocent Man album. But right now, I think River of Dreams and The Nylon Curtain.
Right. I remember I had a conversation with Sting once, and he said, you know, you could write hits. He goes, but I just don't want to write hits anymore. And I couldn't understand that. I said, why? And he goes, he liked writing things that are just musically different, and he doesn't care about hits. And
I understand. I agree with that kind of philosophy. The songs that are a little more adventurous, the songs aren't necessarily as programmable on the radio. They're a little bit left field, but they're more, I don't know, they're more musical in a lot of ways. Maybe people aren't ready for it, or programmers don't want to take the chance of playing something like that. But I tend to like stuff that's a bit more out in left field.
But out in left field, yeah. I mean, that's why when I DJ'd on for your show on Sirius, I try to find, and I like songs about the one on, what was that? Some gangster on Mulberry Street or something. Some
Big Man on Mulberry
big
Street.
man on Mulberry Street, which I loved. It was a great, 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 great
Thank
song.
you for doing our show, by the way. I really appreciate that. You were a good DJ.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. Well, because I knew that everybody loved all those hits, and I did have to play them, but there were songs when I remember listening to your album that I just loved. I just loved. And Billy, is it true? I think I wasn't sure if you told me, but the song "Only the Good Die Young" was really first done as a ballad, and then you made it a shuffle.
It was done as a reggae.
Reggae.
Yeah, it was started out. My idea for it was, come out, Virginia. Don't let me get the liquors. You start much too late. Because I wanted it to be lighthearted, because the subject matter could be a little controversial. So my drummer was listening to me play my idea, and he threw his sticks at me. And he goes, the closest you ever been to Jamaica is on the Long Island Railroad. I don't know from reggae. I said, right, I don't. So we cooked up like a shuffle against a straight four.
Right.
Reggae.
That is, I mean, that's one of my favorite tunes, especially being a Catholic, because I knew those girls, being a Catholic, and I knew those girls. I mean, do you write the lyrics first or the music first, Billy?
99.9% of the time, I write the music first, which is the backwards way of the traditional songwriting. Usually, they take a poem and you set it to music. I write the other way around. First, I write the music, because the first thing I learned when I was taking piano lessons was music, not songs, just how to play notes and music. And then I would write the music, and I'd look and listen to it. Okay, what is the mood? Why did I write this? What's inherent in that melody? What is it saying in the music alone? Because I listen to music that has no words, Beethoven and Chopin and Tchaikovsky, and I kind of get what the composer was trying to get across without words. Right. So that's the first thing I write, and then I try to jam the words in on top of the notes. Which is why it's harder. It's very difficult.
That's why, yeah. I mean, so you always write the music first and the melody, and then you try to. But the incredible thing is, Billy, you would think that your lyrics would be, kind of stilted, or they're not. You write incredible lyrics, and I don't know what to say. I mean, people know what a big fan I am of yours. I mean, 150 million albums sold. God, I always say Billy Joel is the George Gershwin of our time. I know you get embarrassed when I say these things, but I truly mean it. You right. I mean, like just the way you are. She's Always a Woman, the Italian Restaurant. I could go on and on. People, when they knew I was going to speak to you, they couldn't wait for the podcast to come out, because you have touched so many people in so many generations. My 19-year-old daughter, I told you, oh, I love Billy Joel. All my friends love Billy Joel. And I go, holy smokes.
That's
19
great.
years old.
That's
and
great. I like that.
I just want you to know, Billy, I mean, it's just, I get very emotional about it, because I cannot believe you're so humble. And I don't know if you realize the lives you touched. I mean, when you went to Russia in 1986, what made you decide? I don't think, you're one of the first American bands ever to play Russia?
From America, yes. There was another band, like Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, or one of these hippie bands, went over there, but they didn't bring a sound system. And they played in some rinky-dink venue. Nobody really knew about the gig. When we were asked, it was 87, Gorbachev was in. They asked a couple of people. I think they asked Stevie Wonder, Springsteen. We were all up and running. I wanted to do it. And we brought the whole shebang that we played, used at Madison Square Garden. A gigantic sound system, a lighting system, staging, stage hands. I mean, everything. It was a very expensive proposition, because number one, they don't pay, the Russians. And when they were going to pay us, the money was useless. It was rubles. You couldn't take it out of the country. So we donated it to earthquake relief in Armenia. I mean, it was crazy. Because why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? So because one day my kids are going to ask me, Daddy, what'd you do in the Cold War? What'd you do in the Cold War, Daddy? And that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something to kind of lighten the tension of things. I remember when I was a kid, there was a classical Tchaikovsky competition in Moscow, and a guy named Van Cliburn.
I remember him.
Remember that?
Yeah, the handsome guy, yes.
Yes, from Texas. He won the Tchaikovsky competition. He was an American, and it was in Russia. And the Cold War kind of warmed up just for a short amount of time, but that particular instance really changed things, and it stayed with me. That had a big impression on me. I said, you know what? If the musician can do that, then a musician can do it now. Which is why we went to Cuba and we played. We went to Russia and we played. Wait, honey.
That's all right. Don't worry.
Come on over. Say hi to my friend.
It's very improv. Don't worry about it. I like all this. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You are my sunshine.
Oh. Is that
notes out?
Is that your daughter?
Right here.
Oh, wow.
Very good, honey.
Is that Della?
Yeah, Della, come here.
Is that Della?
Yeah, that's Della. You've met her.
Come here, Della. I've met Della.
She's all banged up.
Hi, Della. Della, that was terrific.
Oh, don't be shy. You know
Oh, that was terrific. So do your kids, are they playing music, Billy?
Della is. Alexa, who's 35 now, she took piano lessons. She's a very good pianist.
Wow.
And
she's great. I saw her sing at one of your concerts. She's great.
Yeah, she's a good singer. She just put out a new single called 7 Years. It just came out, a new song that she wrote, a really good song.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So she plays, she sings, she writes. Della can play a little bit of piano. She just started, and she's getting better every day. And she sings too. She sings like an opera singer sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
She has vibrato and everything. And then the little one, who is Remy, who is 3, she's starting to sing like an opera singer too. So it's a musical. I have a brother who's an opera conductor.
Yes, he's a conductor in Europe, right?
That's right, Alexander Joel. Yep.
Wow.
He lives
What
in
a
Vienna.
musical family, Billy.
Yeah, it must be genetic.
Yes. Wait, my producer, Michael, has a question for you. Yes, Michael.
Has there ever been a hit song you've made that you have not expected to become a hit?
I didn't expect any of them to be hits. Honestly, I couldn't tell a hit if it bit me in the butt. No, D.
she's playing the piano behind.
She's a perfectionist.
That's great.
Yeah, like Piano Man is in 6/8 time. It's about a bunch of losers at a bar, drinking all the time. It's like 6 minutes long. I never thought that would be a hit record.
I know, but Billy, I have to tell you, Piano Man, when you did that song, I'm serious, because I worked in club bands myself. I smell the beer. I smell it. And the microphone smells like beer. I smell it, Billy. And the characters you pick about Davey, who'll be in the Navy, the bartender who thinks he's a movie star. I mean, it's classic.
But they were real characters. I mean, I didn't make this up. I looked around. It was one of those look around songs.
Right. That's great.
Oh, boy.
Oh, she's playing the B3.
No, this is a synthesizer, right?
Oh, a synthesizer.
Yeah, it's got string sounds, got all kinds of sounds.
Oh, let me tell you, Billy, my son still talks about one of the highlights of his life when he met you, because obviously my son is a singer-songwriter, when he met you and he was able to fool around and play the piano with you at your house. He still talks about that, my son Dante, and he sends his love.
Oh, yeah, Dante, sure.
Yeah.
I like, doing stuff with people who are studying music. It's not a black magic. But if you get good enough, you are a sorcerer,
Yes. I mean, Bill, did you did you just write? I hate to say this, but you just write hits, but you say you don't mean to write a hit. So you just write. Well, I kind of do the same thing, but only when I write movies, I just write what I like and hope other people like it. That's
But I,
it.
I think there's something to that. I never think about an audience. I never think about selling records. I don't think about what's going to get played on the radio. I don't think about what's going to sell a lot of units. I write for me. Now that may sound very selfish, but
Yes.
I'm very passionate about what I like, and I think that goes into the music, the passion, and people hear that. I think if you write as a human being for your own humanity, a lot of people can relate to that.
Yes. Billy, a few things. When you wrote Italian Restaurant, did you get inspired by something for you to write that? Were you at a restaurant or something?
I wanted to write a symphonic piece, and I had 3 or 4 different pieces of things that I thought what if happens if I sew these together? If I can connect them with some thematic stuff like da 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 da.
Right.
And when we swing back into that part, the whole place goes nuts. Well, it's a reprise, you know. It makes it symphonic, and that's fun to play. It's almost like we're a symphony orchestra when we do that piece.
Wow, I love. Yeah, John Lennon and Paul McCartney. I remember they would have 2 different pieces, and they would put it together. I think it was A Day in the Life. That's how they wrote A Day in the Life, if I'm not mistaken.
They did that a couple of times. When they came up short in the studio, they were supposed to do an album, and they'd have a fragment or a piece
Right.
or a little bit of something. And the producer, George Martin, he was brilliant.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's not bad, and we can connect that to this. And that's how they did Abbey Road. Side 2 of Abbey Road is all little bits and pieces.
Wow.
And I think a lot of the White Album is that too. They came in with half-baked, half-finished stuff. And but it was interesting. It was like a work in progress stuff.
Billy, did you ever meet the Beatles? Did you ever meet them?
I met George Harrison, Ringo Starr, and I know Paul McCartney very well. I never met John Lennon, which I
Wow.
regret. I feel bad about that. We lived right near each other in Long Island. He lived on Cold Spring Harbor, and I lived in Lloyd Neck,
Right.
which is the same body of water. And he would row his boat past my house with the guy who was his assistant, Fred. And he used to say to Fred, "That's Billy Joel's house, but I don't want to bother him because he needs his privacy." And I would drive my boat past John's house. And I'd say, "There's John Lennon's house, but I'm not going to bother him. He's hassling all the time." And we should have said hello.
Wow. Wow, that's just yeah, that's amazing. You know what gets me about George Harrison was he was such a great songwriter, and he was only allowed 2 or 3 songs on the album. But if you'd notice, every song he's ever written was great.
Yeah, I don't know what their deal was, but George didn't get to put as many of his own
Right.
original songs on each album, which I think must have been frustrating for George. But then again, when you're up against Lennon and McCartney, that's
Yeah.
tough, you
Right.
know?
The song "Just the Way You Are," Billy. Did you write that about one person, or you just wrote it just the way you feel?
I think the idea came from my mother, believe it or not, who used to say to me, "I love you just as you are."
Oh,
I
that's
you know,
great.
that's a mother's love. But I wrote it for my first ex-wife,
Right.
yeah, X1, and I think it was a gift because I didn't have any money to buy her anything. So I said, "This is for you." And
Wow.
then she said, "Does that mean I get the publishing too?" I should have known it would be a problem down the road.
Oh God, that's wow. I mean, Billy, it's just really a pleasure talking to you. I want to remind the fans again, please go see Billy in person at Madison Square Garden. His shows start up in November. You have to see him. This is, You know, when they say the word legend, Billy, you are. I know you're so damn modest, but let somebody else toot your horn. Michael, you had another question before we go?
Yeah. What was like the craziest moment you ever lived where you couldn't believe like a kid from Long Island's doing this?
I think the concert at Shea Stadium, the last play at Shea,
Wow.
which was us, and all these great people showed up. Roger Daltrey, Garth Brooks, Don Henley, Steven Tyler. Who else?
Wow.
I don't want to leave anybody out.
Was
And then-
Springsteen, did he show up?
Huh?
Did Springsteen show up? Did Bruce show up?
No, Bruce wasn't at those shows, but McCartney was, though.
Oh, wow.
The last night, at the last moment, nobody expected him to show up, and there he was. Because they opened up the venue, you know, they opened up.
That's right.
They were the first concert.
Holy God, that's right.
So we were all looking at each other on stage like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are we actually doing this? So that was probably, a really an amazing moment.
Well, would you say was that, I don't know, what could I say? You had so many highlights, the George Gershwin Award, obviously, the Kennedy Center.
Yeah.
That had to be one of your highlights of your life. And
Yeah.
obviously your wife and your beautiful children. But Billy, I want to thank you so much. Thank you for doing this. You're an absolute pleasure, and I'm proud to call you my friend. I think you're a genius, and I say that word. People throw that word around like it's nothing, but you are. I will never forget our friendship. Thank you so much, and I'm coming to see you again at the Garden because I love seeing you. God bless you, Alexis, and the kids. And I wish you many more years of success, health, and happiness. Thank you, Billy.
Thank you, Chazz. Looking forward to seeing you again.
God bless. Thank you.
Take care.